Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We all know Scotland's roads are in a dire strait, and we all know the reason why. It's Geoffrey and The Imp. They refuse to sign off on any kind of road improvement in case people can get where they need to be, or that business has a chance of growing. And so for them, roads are seen as evil. But this has a downside. Scotland has the highest rate of road deaths of any region of the United Kingdom. Now, they claim, the Greens will claim, that it's because of an increased use of cars and increased traffic. But that actually doesn't hold water. One only has to look at the stats, and we will, to see that it isn't the number of cars that are the problem. It is entirely the roads. And so it's time that someone in the government grew a pair and told Geoffrey and the Imp to sod off and actually started building and improving roads, putting the money into the infrastructure and cutting the amount of deaths every year that are needless, that are done simply to appease the Greens. People are dying so the SNP can kiss the arse of these two Marxist extremists. Let's take a look at this article and see why people are dying. Here goes. Now, before we get into it, I want to ask, if you're one of the regular viewers who's yet to subscribe, please do subscribe. We're a political channel. YouTube's algorithm pushes us down. It's very hard to get the truth out there. And we do like to spread it and bring people on board and, just make sure that everyone knows what's happening. And it really can only happen with two ways. You subscribe and you like the videos. And if you can do that, it massively, massively helps the channel and helps us get the message out. Thank you for that. Anyway, SNP told that anti-car Green partnership is to blame for the highest number of road fatalities in the United Kingdom. Scotland has recorded the highest number of car fatalities in the UK, and the SNP has been told this should be a wake-up call for guaranteeing road project progress. Basically, tell the Greens, yeah, we understand how you hate cars, you hate the idea of people being able to move away from the 15-minute ghettos that you want to try and impose. We know you hate people having good roads so that businesses can grow. We know you hate having good roads so that animals don't have to suffer sitting in traffic jams for hours, because you don't care about animals either. Let them suffer. They're only pigs or they're only sheep or whatever they are. That's the view they have. Sod people. Let's not do anything good. Let's go back to the 1930s and make people's lives filled with misery and poverty, while you sit there and hire your private yachts. Pair of dicks, aren't they? Anyway, the SNP government has allowed anti-road rhetoric of the Scottish Greens to delay key road development projects, and now accident fatalities are sitting at their highest level for 7 years, according to the Scottish Conservatives. New figures from Transport Scotland have put the number of deaths on roads last year at 173, including 3 children, with the North East region registering some of the highest figures. The figure is notably a 10% rise on the 2021 figure, with 32 deaths. So it's gone up 10% in a year, because this is obviously for the previous year. 10% rise in the year. Just as everyone is calling for the A9 and the A96 to be dualled, for other sections of road to be improved, for road markings to be updated, widening roads in certain places, that sort of thing. Never going to happen because of the SNP being so enthralled to the anti-car Greens that they daren't even propose it, let alone get on and actually do it. Green leaders Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater have been branded anti-car for favouring public transport investment over upgrade projects like dualling the A9. There's no public transport up and down the A9. There's no public transport out along the A6. I mean, yeah, there's buses and coaches, but they don't run often enough, and they don't take you to where you need to be. What do you do when you get to the end? You hire a car, get a taxi. Still a car, isn't it? Anyway, Scottish Conservative Transport spokesman Graham Simpson said, if the SNP keep bowing to their Green, he calls them coalition partners, bosses, let's be honest, it's a Green government backed up by the SNP. He said that only increases the risk of greater numbers of incidents on the dangerous roads in Scotland. And he's right, and it's never going to get better. It can only get worse, because as time goes on and they're not investing, these roads crumble, fall off, go at the sides, there's underlying structural problems. It's going to get worse. And yet nobody wants to grasp the nettle because nobody wants to upset the little shit and his big tall friend because they might walk. Well, let them. The SNP should be big enough and bollocky enough to be able to sit and have a minority government. And if they can't, then they don't deserve to be there. But people's lives are being, well, ended. I was going to say put at risk. They're not. People are dying because of this obsession of the Greens to not actually provide decent roads. They should feel absolutely ashamed of themselves. Show them the pictures of all these dead kids and say it's your fault because you won't upgrade those roads. Anyway, the data collected from Police Scotland concluded that Scotland now has a higher rate of road deaths per million population than the UK average. Scotland has a rate of 32 deaths per million compared to the UK rate of 26 deaths per million. It is the highest rate of any of the home nations compared to England, 25, Northern Ireland, 29 and Wales at 30. Mr Simpson added, "My thoughts are with those families who are grieving the loss of a loved one on Scotland's roads last year, and this year, and next year, and probably the year after that, until we get rid of this government and get in a government that's prepared to actually do the roads. They don't all have to be done at once, but do them slowly over time and make life better every single day. You just a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. It isn't hard, is it?" He said, "It's deeply concerning to see the number of fatalities are at their highest level in 6 years. 7 years. 6 years because it was until last year, 22. Yeah, okay, 6 years. And now effectively at the level they were a decade ago. The figures reaffirm the need to urgently upgrade key trunk roads and routes across the country, as far too many of them are unsafe for road users, especially the A9 and, for annoyance sake, the A96. It's a dog of a journey, Inverness to Aberdeen." Ever since bringing the extremist, anti-green Marxist into government, the SNP ministers have been rowing back on their previous commitments to upgrade these roads, with dreadful consequences. Deaths on the notorious A9 have now reached a tragic 20-year high. One road, worst road in Scotland. People keep dying because it isn't good enough. If the SNP keep bowing to their Green coalition partner, that only increases the risk of a greater number of incidents, he says. The SNP are miles off meeting their target to halve the number of deaths on our roads by 2030, and their deaths here are higher than the rest of the UK. They have this commitment. We're going to halve the number of deaths. How are you going to do that? We're going to make the roads so much better by doing this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then they bring the Greens on. The Green go, no, and okay. So that's another promise gone. It's another promise dead because the Greens don't like cars. They just think that everyone who drives a car is a bastard. Except they both have cars. You know that? Unbelievable. And you know that they're not electric cars either. Because apparently it's something to do with can't get a charging point where he lives and things like that. Anyway, the increase in casualties is said to be linked to higher levels of traffic, but that's not entirely true. They've been concentrated on the regions where the SNP government itself identified the need for road improvements. So it isn't more cars. Where if it's just generally more traffic, you'd see them spread out evenly, but they're not. The rises are concentrated where the bad roads are, where the government have said these are the bad roads. That's where the rises are concentrating. So it's not cars, it's roads. In Aberdeenshire, where delays to road projects like the A96 have caused major uproar among locals, the fatality level remains at the highest level in 4 years, as 17 people were killed on routes across the region in just 2022. The figures show deaths on the North East roads are the third highest in Scotland and above average for 2018 to 2022. They also remain higher than 4 years ago when 15 people died, and those numbers will increase with time. And it won't get better. It just won't. It can't possibly. And there's Hislop Transport. And Jesus, what does she know? What does she know? She knows the way to Greggs, but she doesn't know about roads. She doesn't know about safety. She doesn't know anything. But she'll open her mouth and she will condescendingly patronise us with saying about, oh, people have lost people and all this. And, oh, isn't it sad? Isn't it sad? What are you doing about the roads, Fiona? Oh, nothing, because the Greens have told us we can't. And that's the problem. You got these two who are the government of Scotland. A woman who doesn't have a clue about anything, an absolute moron, fails with everything. and him, an IRA supporting, Hamas loving little bag of shit. Anyway, all those people who've lost loved ones, they are why your people are dead. That's it. Coming up. Now, of course, one of the big problems is that Humza Yousaf has given his support for the Greens, and he can't be seen to go back on that. Otherwise, people will think he's a two-faced, hypocritical tosspot. I leave that for you to decide. But he had the perfect opportunity when they came out as pro-Hamas a couple of weeks ago. And he could have said, oh, that's unacceptable, blah, 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 dropped them from government, moved on. And he wouldn't have lost face. But of course he didn't do that, and so now he can't get rid of them. And so you have these two in government. Everyone knows they're dangerous. Everyone knows they are deliberately killing people with their policies. And nobody in the SNP has the balls, with maybe one exception, and we know who that is, Fergus, well done, son. Nobody in the government has the balls to come out and say they need to go, and they need to go now because they are dangerous and we're fed up of having them there. There will be a coup d'etat. I think there won't be long. And unless Humza Yousaf gets rid of the Greens, Humza Yousaf himself will be gone. And then maybe he can join the Greens. Only they won't have him, of course. Even they know that he's dumb. Although not as dumb as her. Anyway, the longer they stay in government, the more people will die. It's up to the people of Scotland to make that clear. Anyway, I'm done with this one. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button. Really helps the channel. Do please hit the like button. Really helps the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay off the roads. And if you can't, be careful. Bye.